There's nothing quite like the thrill of the hunt, the chase, the stalking, the moment you take your shot. But what happens when the hunter becomes the hunted? Tonight's tale features a man who spends his life pursuing prey, but little does he know, he's the one being stalked. Let's enter the woods, where nothing is as it seems, in tonight's episode, The Unseen Stalker.
The sun is set. The moon is out. This is the hour. All things scary happen. There is a show, a podcast, about all things paranormal. What are we calling it, Douglas?
This is Red Tooth's Haunted Outdoors. Jake Grizzly Walker was a seasoned hunter. He spent most of his life in the woods, tracking deer, elk, and anything else that could put meat on the table. Hunting was more than a hobby to Jake. It was his way of life. Every fall he would retreat deep into the wilderness to spend days alone in his favorite tree stand, waiting for the perfect shot. One crisp autumn morning, Jake climbed into his tree stand before dawn, rifle slung over his shoulder, and settled in for a long wait. Hours passed as the forest slowly came to life around him. The quiet was calming, broke only by the rustling of leaves and distant calls of animals. Suddenly, Jake spotted movement, a large buck, cautiously making its way through the underbrush. He raised his rifle, his heart pounding with anticipation. As he took aim, something happened. The branch he was standing on gave way, and he felt a sharp jolt of pain as he plummeted from the tree, his body slamming against the hard ground below. Everything went black. When Jake opened his eyes, he was lying on the forest floor, disoriented, but seemingly unharmed. His rifle was still by his side, and the buck had vanished. Shaken off the fall, Jake stood up and dusted himself off. He was lucky. He could have broken his neck, but he felt fine. In fact, he didn't feel much pain at all. Determined to continue his hunt, Jake climbed back into his tree stand, certain he could track the buck again. Hours passed, but nothing came. As night fell, Jake decided to head back to camp, but something was wrong. He couldn't find the trail. He knew these woods like the back of his hand, yet every path seemed unfamiliar, twisted in ways that didn't make sense. Frustrated, Jake wandered through the dense trees, his footsteps making no sound on the leaf-covered ground. He felt like he was walking in circles, but somehow, no matter which way he went, he always ended up near the base of his tree stand. Strange things began to happen. He saw distant figures darting between the trees, human-shaped, but translucent, like shadows. He called out to them, but they never responded. At night, he could hear whispers in the wind, voices that seemed to speak his name, but he couldn't see anyone. Jake's frustration turned to fear. He was never afraid in the woods before, but now the silence felt wrong, oppressive. He fired his rifle into the air to get attention, but no sound came from the shot. His gun was cold, lifeless in his hands. Days passed, or maybe weeks. Time seemed a blur. Jake couldn't find his way out of the forest and couldn't find any animals. He couldn't find himself. He never got hungry or tired, but a deep, gnarling feeling grew inside him, an understanding he couldn't quite grasp. Then one night, as Jake sat beneath the stars, staring up through the tree branches, he noted something strange. At the base of his tree stand, there was a figure lying on the ground, motionless. As he approached, his heart froze. The figure was him. His lifeless body, twisted and broken, lay where he had fallen from the tree. Jake stumbled back in horror, trying to make sense of what he was seeing. He wasn't alive. He had died in that fall, and he had been wandering the woods ever since, unaware of his own death. Suddenly, the shadows that had been stalking him revealed themselves, emerging from the trees. They were the spirits of the animals that he had hunted over the years. Their eyes glowed with a silent rage. They surrounded him, their presence cold and unforgiving. You are the prey now, Jake, and there's no escape from the hunt. The spirits closed in, and Jake finally understood. He was trapped in this eternal forest, hunted by the very souls he had once pursued forever. Poor Jake thought he was the hunter, but in the end, he was just another animal lost in the woods. So, my dear viewers, and the next time you head into the great outdoors, remember, some prey bites back. Until next time, when we'll stalk the shadows again.